To another edition of Forever Bristol City podcast. The season start is a little over 2 weeks away, but the lads are well and truly back in action. They're fit and raring to go in most cases. I'm joined today by Neil and Ian, who've both watched in full the friendly against Newport in Ian's case, and Neil went all the way to Aldershot to watch that game. And I say, 2 games against inferior opposition, but 2-2-0 wins, clean sheets, augurs well for the future. Ian, let's start with the Newport game. We beat them 8-0 last season, but that didn't really mean anything, and a much changed side for us compared to a year ago. What were your thoughts when you saw that particular lineup that you might like to go through with us, and the formation? Yeah, is it giving us any signs? That's what the title of this episode of the podcast is. What have we learned?
Well, I think what we've learned is that Manning, as last season, will be a coach that plays one way in possession and another way out of possession. So the lineup was 4-4-2 as advertised, but it morphed into 3-4-3 when we were attacking. I thought I don't like inverted wingers, which is the modern standard where you have the left-footed guy on the right and the right-footed guy on the left. Even though Mehmeti's right-footed, just to contradict myself, I actually prefer Anis on the left and Sykesy on the right. But Sykes was causing the left back a lot of problems. Newport would be a different proposition this year than they were under Mike Flynn, who's now gone to Cheltenham. Newport have got a Madeiran coach whose family live not far from where I stay over there. And he's been to Swansea, and they're going to play a lot more football. And you saw that straight away. There was very few. The only long balls were when they panicked, really. They tried to play their way out of defence, and they played some quite nice stuff at times. But a little bit like a lot of the modern coaches where they overpass, there was not much cutting edge, although they did have a absolutely gilt-edged chance at the end that I think I'd have put away. And the guys somehow contrived to kick it round the post. But no, I thought we lined up 4-4-2. It was interesting to see McCrory and Tanner in the same team. So initially I thought, well, yeah, that looks like McCrory right wing back, Sykes left, Tanner left, right centre back, and Rob Atkinson in the middle, who looked imperious, and he certainly looked fully fit, and Josh Campbell-Slowey on the left, who I liked. He's a big, strong bloke, and I think he'll be in the first team squad for sure. And the comical thing is, after I'm touching wood all the time I say this, we've got quite a few centre backs, but the majority are better at left centre back than they are at right centre back.
Yeah.
So we've actually only got one who I did a spreadsheet the other day and put players into what I think is their best position. And we only had one where his best position is right centre back, and that's Zach Viner, who will be back playing this weekend. So I think.
What was the midfield combo like of Bird and Taylor Gardner-Hickman? Because of the two of those,
it took them a little while to get used to each other and get going in a what I call a proper game format. But Bird being left-footed gives real balance. He's a player that doesn't waste the ball. He's not one of these that's trying to ping worldies every 5 minutes. I mean, he did take a direct free kick that troubled the Birds rather than the goalkeeper. But, you've got to try those things. He's quick for a big bloke. He's decent in the air because he's 6'1". He's quite strong. He's not afraid of a tackle. And obviously, you've got Gardner-Hickman at 6'2", who was putting himself about. And Gardner-Hickman got better and better as the game went on. And they both passed the ball well. The second half, City were completely dominant and Newport couldn't get the ball off us. So, but I think Newport would be a team to watch. If their style comes off, they're in League Two, aren't they? If the style comes off in League Two, I think they could surprise a few people this year because
Well,
when it works well.
Yeah, wasn't their manager last year ex-Gas boss Graham Coughlin when he came when we beat them 8-0?
I thought it was Mike Flynn.
Yeah,
Could have been. You might be right, Dave.
Years ago, he's been at Walsall recently. No, Graham Coughlin.
Yeah, I mean, what Flynn's now at Cheltenham under Director of Football Gary Johnson.
Yeah,
and his brother, actually Scout.
Anyway, that's my brother Pete.
The goals, Ian. I mean, we had two, I'll call it strikers out there in Sinclair Armstrong, the new signing from QPR, and the effervescent, even at the age of 34, Naki Wells. They both got on the score sheet in the second half. How did you see the goals? I mean, the second one was made by one of the youngsters, but talk us through the goals.
Yeah. Well, Raycon Nelson came on as a sub for Mark Sykes after about 60 minutes. And he looked strong and pacey, and he went down the left, got his head up, nice little cutback, and Sinclair with a really deft finish with his right inside of his right foot after he got across the defender, which I really love to see, at the near post. Now, if he gets across in front of you, you're not shoving him anywhere because he is one big, strong kid, and he's quick, and I mean quick. So if he's running at you, you've got a problem. Now, because Newport played very deep and they surrendered the midfield when they were out of possession a lot, it was actually quite good practice for what we've struggled with at Ashton Gate for a long time, which is breaking down teams that sit deep. And we created some reasonable chances. I think our crossing needs to go up about 50% on what I saw. Some of our crossing was quite poor. If it wasn't for that, we would have won by more goals. Naki's goal. Naki should have got a goal in the first half, but he had a bit of a heavy touch that took him through. Left-footed shot against the keeper. Armstrong followed up and had two cleared off the line. So his first effort got cleared off the line. His second one, he scuffed a bit, and that got cleared off the line as well. But you know, once again, Naki, great through ball from Bird. Naki is one of those guys, you see him through on goal, and he's a bit like Andy Vyman used to be. You think well, he's probably not going to miss. And he put it away with aplomb, as they say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, I would have liked to have seen us score a few more goals. It's true, but it was Manning deliberately picked two teams of mixed strength. So
yeah, I agree with that, Ian. Because I was just trying to think, looking at it, and say, well, was that a B team or the A team? And then I've looked at the team that Neil's going to talk about.
Yeah, they're sort of half the A team and half the B team, I would say. And you've got, you know, I was pleased to see the youngsters that came on. Zach Ali came on for a bit. Yeah, I mean, our defence at the end was, I think he had an average age of about 19. Which is when Newport created their one chance of the game.
Yeah,
I thought Bajic looked very confident with the ball at his feet. Obviously, I'd like to see him in a proper game under a lot more pressure. But the saves that he had to make were very competent and competently handled. His handling was generally good. He's a big kid, so hopefully he'll come through more as number two for Max.
Okay.
But of the people,
yeah, Ian. Sorry, fitness levels you can't really tell against inferior opposition. But we were all saying last season, yeah, there's a player there in Ross McCrory. He didn't come cheap. He missed a lot of the season with injury. Did he look, you know, the sort of player that maybe we thought we'd signed a year ago and up for it?
Oh yeah, and I mean he played well. I mean he almost played right wing. He was up and down that line for 90 minutes. He really gave. I mean, up and down, winning tackles, winning headers. Once again, the shooting and crossing needs to go up a notch, but that will come with better touch and more time. But he looked 100% fit. They all look really fit, and they all look like they could do 90 tomorrow. So obviously he was a bit bit careful with Rob Atkinson, took him off. But I mean, when he was on the field, he looked completely dominant in that central position of the three when we were attacking. And I don't think he lost a ball in the air all day, and that was in both penalty areas. So he's definitely a threat.
Okay. And it's good that you said Atkinson looked imperious, I think was the word you used at the back.
Yeah.
Because by all accounts, he was, not the fittest when they came back after pre-season. And Mehmeti was fitter than any of them, including Bristol Bears players as well. So we're told. All right, Ian, that's a great summary of the Newport game. I saw bits and pieces of it on my computer because it was on at lunchtime when I was at work. But, it was a good workout. We knocked it round well. And 2-0, 2-0's 2-0. Neil, you were one of the 400 City fans that made the trip up to Aldershot. I went there for that FA Cup replay or two back in 1988. Yeah, no, I think I saw all the games actually, but 400.
Neil, sorry to interrupt, Dave. Neil, is it still the ground in the park, or have they got a new ground?
No, it's still the same ground.
Yeah.
Just a bit more built up nowadays.
Yeah. 400 fans, that's going to put a few coffers in the Aldershot bank account. And I guess that friendly was partly related to the fact that we took Josh, is it Josh Stokes? It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh Stokes from them for the money.
Yeah.
What did you think when you saw that lineup? I mean, let's go through it. Max in goal, Dickey, Naismith in central defence. What was the shape of that side as you saw it when you were there? Or did it flex, like Ian said, depending on...
No, I think it's set up as a 4-2-3-1 with Knight and Williams as the holding midfielders. Stokes playing as a 10 right behind... Stokes playing as a 10. Bell on the left. Elijah Morrison on the right. Mm-hmm. With Fally in the centre. So Stokes had a bit more of a sort of a roaming role across the park in relation to it. But, I mean... Look, I've said a few things about really Sykes. I know that it's 3 games in one day. Nightmare for logistics.
Yeah.
For the under 21s at Weston as well, and you're trying to think, okay, where's my first side and all the rest of it. And you're trying to do justice to everybody. But for me, Elijah Morrison on the right, rather, he's very left-footed. And he plays left back or left midfield or left wing back. I would have liked to have seen a Sykes or something on the right-hand side. I think playing next to Fally, because every time Elijah got forward, and he's a strong, technical, he's a good young player. But every time he got it, he was cutting back on his left and trying to do, the inside ball. And you're just like, where Fally is looking like he's that guy. You get to the byline, he's going to be hanging around the penalty spot. We never got down that side. On that side. Belly. Man of the match.
Samba.
Yeah. He looked fit, strong, healthy again. He came off after 60 minutes, which we'll come to, but straight from the word go in relation to that, he was on it.
And Brian Tinian said to us in that piece we did with him at the beginning of June, he sees Sam as a central striker. I mean, so was he playing more central than?
No, he was playing down the left.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about all of these games, obviously, is not necessarily what the camera focuses on. The dreaded, you watch something on TV because obviously it's behind closed doors in Newport. You watch what people are doing off the ball, and like any friendly, particularly in these situations, the sharpness. Yeah, you might teach the fitness. Yeah, you might be working on your triangles and all the rest of it during the course of the week, but actually, just the ability to switch on. And there's so much muscle memory and things that you're doing automatically once you get into the season, once you get into the actual games come thick and fast. And that's where you sort of pick up last night, the night before, Aldershot, we were a few players, Joe Williams in particular, first 20 minutes, got caught. Well, he just needed a little bit of time to switch on. He got better as the game went on, but all of them got a little bit better and a bit more fluid as the game went on.
Which they do, because you said last night you watched a local game.
Well, I took a game last night over at Nailsy in Tick, and I still call them Tool Station side, but they're it's Western League, it's Juicing League now. But that was their fourth friendly and our first one for our reserve side, and you just notice a difference that when you're playing against a side that has got 2 or 3 friendlies and you're into your first friendly, just the time you've got on the ball, your mental thought process. And
so
all the rest of it.
it's not just fitness and isolation.
It's not.
Let's
It's
look at some
mental.
individual players.
It's
in there.
mental
I mean,
shots.
the lad at right back, James,
Josh
Josh James. I mean,
Yeah.
his first team exposure was very limited last season.
Cardiff.
It was at Cardiff, and that was it.
Well, he was on the bench a few times and came off, but he played Cardiff away at left back, which I thought that was the time.
So effectively,
game.
you said there was not a great deal coming down the right, but you got 2 very inexperienced players there in James and Morrison.
Yeah, they had Ryan Jones on the left, Aldershot, the ex-Gas player, because obviously Tommy Witherington's there, and he's bought pretty much, about 5 or 6 ex-Gas players there, players like Josh Barrett, Cameron Hargreaves, his son Theo Witherington, the goalkeeper Von Staple, not toucher, save.
And what league are they in?
Their conference.
So below League 2.
Yeah,
okay.
One below.
The goals, Sam, I've seen both of those just on the video clip, but you were there.
Yeah.
Sam's was a bit tasty, wasn't it?
Good. He took it extremely well. He made a diagonal run onto a dicky pass. Ran along the line. They were appealing for offside. They stopped a little bit. He took it down on his right foot and then chipped the guy straight away with his left.
Yeah.
And you thought, that is a finish.
That's a good one.
that was a finish.
Cam, with that header of his, he was in the centre of.
Yeah, well, I was on the terrace and I moved. Each time you can move around the grounds, and these lovely non-league grounds you can move around. So I was down at the terracing, so I could see Pring on the left, and he made the move. And to be honest, they were tiring by that stage. It was sort of 70 minutes in, and you could see Knight looked up. Cam made the diagonal run into the sort of the penalty box, and Knight hit him with a beautiful cross in, and they didn't pick him up, and it was a late-ish run.
Yeah,
I think professionals, a championship side probably would have defended it better, put it that way. But it was a late run and very good header.
Yeah, Fally Mayulu at the moment are he cost the most, I think, of the close season signings. I was just reading comments on from fans that were there that Mayulu looked a little bit not off the pace, but out of possession, positioning, game awareness. People saying he didn't have a bad game, but he's got a lot to learn.
Okay, so I think if we're talking about, we could probably bring Stokes into the equation as well, potentially, just in terms of the new guys there. You've got Stokes, who 2 years ago was playing step 9, and then he's gone up to sort of step 5,
and now he's
and now he's at step 2. So that's a hell of a trajectory that he's going with it. But looking at him last night, he's a stocky lad. He is a big, solid guy, But positionally, he's still got a lot to learn. And from a defensive point of view, just the way he sort of sets up when he's behind the ball. I'm looking at it from a coaching perspective here. He tends to grab onto players when they go past him, little niggly fouls. You can see why he got 15 yellows and 1 red last season. Because, he gets it. Temperament-wise, he got a bit frustrated at times, what they did. Obviously, he's got their hands on him, a little bit tugging, a little bit of that. And he reacts a little bit in the way that young players sort of do. If you were a championship guy and the analysts will look at him and get on him.
So try to provoke him.
Get your hands on him, get this. Yeah. So when I talk about, when we talk about, where they are, it's not just where they are in terms of technical ability. To be a professional player at championship level, it's a mental thing as much as a physical thing. Yes, you've got the speed, you've got the pace, you've got the physicality. It's an incredibly hard league. We all know it's an incredibly hard league. We all know that actually the championship, it's a thankless league, isn't it? With the parachute payments and all the rest of it financially. But it's the mental thing as well of switching on. Now, coming to Fally. Fally looks a young lad out there. He's tall, big frame, very leggy. Reminded me a little bit of Canu sort of thing back in the day. very leggy sort of style, languid sort of style with it. Nice touch, ball's coming into him, can hold it up, pass it off. But he's got to pick up in terms of, you know, the pace of the game.
Yeah.
Now, this is Aldershot. Championship is a whole different level 2 weeks from now. But what he hasn't got, and what Sinclair has got, is a rapid turn of pace over 5 yards.
Okay, so that's going to be the difference.
That is going to be the difference. And there were times in the game where you had Bell and Knight and players like that rapidly advancing on a break,
and he was
Fally's 10 yards behind.
A bit like Harry Kane in the Euros then.
Good analogy.
Okay. Yeah. Carl Sicknote Naismith.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
I don't like him. I just think he's a liability at the back. But how did he look in that setup?
It's Aldershot.
It's Aldershot.
And it's the first friendly, and you take it. Look, he was great to see him on the pitch. It was great to see him get 80 minutes. That for me is the main thing. He didn't go off injured. He's there. I kind of like his passing ability in the centre of midfield, but he's obviously not going to get in the centre of midfield because you've got players like.
Is he going to get? We're going to talk about predicted selections later on. One quick one before I talk to Ian about injuries and the usual half dozen. I was reading lots of positive comments about a young 16-year-old that came on, Leo Pakova, if that's all right. I'd never heard of him before. Nobody had. But in a sub-appearance of about 25 minutes, he made a bit of an impression.
He did. He was right in front of me, actually, as I say, on the terrace. And he came on for Bell, played on the left, but drifted in as well. I think the thing with Leo was nobody knew who he was in the nicest possible way. He came on. The bench itself was you had Tommy Blackwell, you had Jack Griffin, who came across from Guernsey, another one of the Guernsey young lads, and Pekova. So the bench wasn't, we were stretched with the 3 games going on. But he came on and he looked to me like a Benarus, but a stockier Benarus, quite small, but stocky, filled out frame. But straight away he was on it. Yeah.
And you said Josh Stokes looked stocky and physicality. So how this kid's 16, and bearing in mind that Spain had a 17-year-old. He turned 17 the day before they played us in the final. Yeah. What's the phrase? If you're good enough, you're old enough.
Well, Spain had to pay about 40,000 euro penalty every time we played.
Right.
Because in Germany you're not allowed to play under 17s.
Oh.
So they had to pay a fine.
You think that was a cameo appearance against inferior opposition?
No.
And you'd be very surprised if he graced the first team 20 between now and Christmas.
I think when you're a youngster and you come on the pitch, you often have an opportunity to make an impression in the same way like Ephraim at times when he first came into it, and we looked at Yeboah and went, "Oh, he's making a positive impression." I thought Leo did himself absolutely a bundle of favours, but with it, none of us knew who he was, and that was the main thing. And then you're just like, right, who is this guy? And then it turns out he's 16. He doesn't look 16. He looks a couple of years older, that's for sure. And physical-wise, pace-wise, ability on it.
Ian, you've said many times on the podcast, we need to have a squad size of X because there's always going to be 5 or 6 players injured and players noticeable by their absence across the 3 games that were played. Eamon Benarou, Zach Viner, Hayden Roberts, Murphy, and Cornick. Yeah. What's your inside intel? Tell us about those. Are they just narrow little knocks, or
Cornick's missus, Cornick's partner had a baby, so that's why he wasn't there. The rest of them have got what might be described as niggles. I'm expecting to see Zach and Harry Cornick take some part, because we've got 2 friendlies over the weekend, and we've got a Friday and a Saturday.
Friday, Exeter, Saturday, both away.
Yeah. No, Exeter's at home, isn't it?
Is it? Exeter. Oh, is that HPC? Is it?
Exeter's at the HPC, and you can watch that. I think if you're not a member, you or you haven't got your pass, it's a fiver. But the Cheltenham game, I don't think is on anywhere unless Cheltenham have got a streaming service.
I'm
not going.
You're not going. Nobody's going.
So,
All right.
but I mean, that'll be quite well attended. But I would expect to see all of them. Now, with Adam Murphy and Eamon, because Eamon's been out so long, the medical team are still being very careful. So you might see 20, 25 minutes, something like that would be my guess. I don't know that for sure, but he's done all his fitness stuff. He went on the pre-season tour, as did Adam Murphy. They're fine. So the same apply. Hayden Roberts should take some part at the weekend. There's nothing serious. I mean, the most serious injury at the moment, or what could potentially be serious, is Yu Hirakawa. Now he's gone. I can tell you, he's gone for a scan this morning, and they'll get the results. Now, the important thing to remember is that the Japanese medical team, with their squad, and Paul Tanner and his team are in constant touch. So if it does look like he can't take any part and he's going to be out for, let's say 3 weeks, he'll be reporting back to the HPC for treatment. I don't think they'll leave him over there. I mean, it might happen.
Since we're talking about inbound players, is his loan for the whole of the season? Yes, or
yes, with an obligation to buy.
Obligation to buy or option to buy?
Yeah, and I'll tell you the thing that underlines that. Did you see the send off that the fans gave him?
Yes.
Right, you don't give a send off to somebody going out on loan like that. Right, that's not a au revoir. That's a goodbye. So, and I think, I mean, from a lot of the information that I'm getting now, I've got a bunch of Japanese followers on Twitter, and they just need to remember I can't speak Japanese. So I get a DM, and it's absolutely full of Japanese writing. But
get your phone out here and stick it on Google Translate.
Well, that's what I've done. But yeah, we've got an obligation, and it won't be anything like the option we had on our friend Mabude. So people can stop panicking. It's not big money. Take it from me.
No. I mean, it's a shame that he's tied up with this tournament anyway. Never mind the fact that he's got injured, because if he's been brought in as he is a first team squad member, he's not going to take any part in how the side is formulated for the opening day against Hull, because I think he could.
But in fairness, he went to Portugal, and I mean, as I see it, we're coming into the season. Everything points to us playing with the 3 forwards up front, the 2 wide guys, and a centre and 1 centre forward. So I think we've got 2 guys that are better on the right, and it's going to be Hirakawa and Sykes. Yeah. And we've got 2 guys, 3 actually, who I think are better on the left, and that's Bell, Mehmeti, and Elijah Morrison. Okay. And Elijah Morrison will be a member of the first team squad this season, and that's where I see him playing. And as I said earlier on, I really don't like inverted wingers, but it's the modern way. I prefer a bloke that gets to the byline, either pulls it back or puts in a decent cross. Now, one thing that I am pleased about this season is when we've lined up previously in when they all shake hands at the start, it does tend to look like Land of the Giants out there, and we're not the Giants. This year we will be. And if you're defending set pieces, it's really important that I think if we can get Scott Twine, and obviously we'll come on to that, we've already got Max Bird, and they can both deliver really good set pieces. So it's important that when you're a defender and you're looking around that penalty area, we're going to have some monsters out there. We've got 3 6'4" guys that could all easily be out there in Fally, Rob Dickey, Rob Atkinson. Then you start coming down to the smaller blokes like McCrory, 6'2", 3. You got, I mean, Armstrong's only 6 foot, but he's one of those guys. He's about 4 foot.
He looks a lot. I mean, Joe Jordan. When you meet Joe Jordan in the flesh, he's not that big actually, but when you used to see him play, he looked at Colossus. All right, let's we talk about
I think that's
formations in
yeah.
We do a few of these previews. Neil, I know you're going to miss the next couple of weekends, so you're not seeing the Willow game. You're away on holidays.
I'm doing scouting from a beach in Catalonia.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, let's look at our transfer business so far, and you've got to include the fact that Murphy, Stokes, and Bird were signed pre-season. Fally, Armstrong, and Hirakawa have come in. Yes, as Ian said, we're going to talk about the Scott Twine situation, if that's one to do. But the only player with any experience is Max Bird, who's come in that group. Yeah, experience of note.
No, I think you could put Armstrong in there as well. Yeah, I think you could say Armstrong is he's been QPR's young player of this season for the last 2 seasons. Okay. He's got championship experience.
All right.
He's played 80 championship games.
I'd have Armstrong in there.
You would. I mean, Matty James, Max Bird, straight swap for Matty James, would you say?
I think so. Max Bird played for Derby in the championship a few times as well.
Scored the goal that got them promoted to.
Yeah, and so let's be honest with.
Are you happy? Are you happy with our business so far? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 ecstatic, 1 6. A 6. Do you think there's one punt too many in there, but that's just indicative of the market?
No, I don't, because I think there is invariably going to be people leaving, whether they go out on loan or whatever. When it settles down, and it's starting to come to a point, no doubt, where it sort of settles down in relation to it. But I mean, the Conway situation is thrown a little bit.
Well, come on to that in detail.
Yeah, but in terms of recruitment, because you're thinking really that your top scorer from pretty much the last 2 seasons isn't even getting a game when there's 3 games.
Didn't even play for the under-21s, but he was doing something in the community the other day, if I saw it.
Yeah, so I think that throws it. Look, defensively, last season, 4th best team in the division, plethora of selection issues. I wouldn't like to be the first team coach trying to keep everybody happy defensively, because you can see where people go when they looked at Jamie Knight-Bell going out on crew for the season and things like that. You think, I really hope. And then you look at how many options we have defensively, and we have, defence not an issue. Where we have problems is at the other end of the pitch,
as always.
And if you look at how we have recruited there's some chances. We're taking chances with our recruitment there. Now that is because I'm guessing that is the market that we find ourselves in. Ideally you would want to go into the championship and buy these championship ready players. If you were buying a Fally type guy in this country, you're paying 5, 6, 7 million for him. So you're in certain markets, you're having to recruit in certain markets. There is no way that Fally and Armstrong is where the club saw their first. These 2 numbers.
No, and those 2 don't start, do they? As a 2?
No, they don't.
And I'll ask Ian this question as well. I mean, you were describing Fally, and then I'm thinking that sounds remarkably similar description to a player that we have let go out on loan, Seb Palmer-Holden, who scored 2 goals. I saw him score a cracker abroad for Dundee. Yeah. Tapped one in the other night. He's not. I think he was injured for a bit. Not a natural selection. He came on as a sub the other night and scored when they won 3-0. But if you look at some of the money that has been spent on Maulu, bearing in mind, Armstrong's come in, might that money have been better spent bringing in the golden egg of Twine rather than not offering them closer to what they've got? I'm going to ask Ian the same question, but what's your view on
we obviously have a budget, and you're juggling the budget around a number of different players. I mean, when you're talking about Sinayoko, for instance, it's my belief that there was at least 4 bids for Sinayoko. We really wanted the guy. We couldn't get the guy. Too much money. We put bids in for Twine, which we'll come to, but they're asking too much money. So then you're looking at the players you can do. So it's kind of we're on about our 3rd and 4th choice strikers, but that is the market that you're actually sort of working in by way of recruitment. I think I made a point on OTIP actually about maybe is you obviously haven't seen it. I made the point that for me, Seb plays a very similar way to. But that was a fantastic loan deal for Seb.
Of course.
And he gets to play up there, and we've just given him a new 3-year contract, and hopefully he'll come back from that loan, and it'll be that much more. But first few months of the season, when I watched Valley, I'm thinking there is a guy who is going to take 2 or 3 months to get.
And the thing is, we're also talking about Sam Bell being a potential in the middle, not necessarily out there. Yeah, but that's by Ian. You sat there listening patiently there. I mean, Brian said to us in June, Seb, it's a good loan move for him because I think it was tied up very early doors. What's your understanding of where we are on the Twine situation, and what say you that maybe we might have been able to get closer to their valuation? Have we not shelled out on Maulu and maybe kept Seb Palmer-Holden here? So those 2 points. In fact, do it the other way. Do it the other way around. Do Seb Palmer-Holden, and then your take on where we're at with Twine.
With Seb, he had a really good season on loan with Newport last year. Young player of the season, League 2. And as you both said earlier on, it's a hell of a jump from League 2 to the Championship. And we've seen it before with other players, both in terms of fitness when they came in. Why we're being careful with people like Murphy is George Tanner came in, tore his hamstring twice in the first year. So they don't want that happening again. So that's a reason. Another reason is you've got to leave it up to the coaches down there to make a judgment on what's best for the player. There's what's best for the player and what's best for the team. And Seb, the decision was made that Seb would be better off up there playing football than playing for the under-21s and sat on the bench down here getting splinters in his bum. And I go along with that 100%. And I rate Seb, really have, for a while. Looking at the players we've signed, we can play a 2. In fact, I'd go with a 3-5-2. I don't think Liam Manning will, but I would. And you could easily play Armstrong in Wells. You could easily play Fally in Wells. You could easily play Armstrong in Bell if you wanted to. Now, I think we have to. I mean, this is pre-season. So I think the team that lines up against Willems Fay will be pretty close to the team that goes to Hull. That's normally the way it works. This is obviously barring injuries and accidents. Coming back to Scott Twine, I did it just for fun. I put a poll on X asking City fans how much they thought he was worth. And the consensus from about 85% of the people, he was worth somewhere between 2.5 and 4 million.
Yeah, that's quite a big spread, isn't it? That is.
Well, it's if you think about it, it's not, because I said how much would you think he was worth. I think I said not including add-ons.
Yeah.
So 4 million with add-ons would be quite a lot. Now, it's not a quick. But who was the player you said we needed to pay more money for, or he to come to us? Who was that? Sissoko?
No, that was Twine, because it's
Sinioko.
Oh, Sinioko. Sorry, Neil was saying.
From where? Yeah, but he was, like I said, he was way too much money, and we never put a bid in. He was never a target, and we were aware of him. But you know, we got to realise where we are. We're not in Harrods with our shopping anymore. We're in Asda, Tesco, right? So we are spending some money, and I think for what we've spent on Fally and Armstrong, I think you're dead right. They're certainly not the finished article, and we haven't got finished article money, because, as Neil quite rightly said, you'd be poking out somewhere between 7 and 10 million,
Right.
and that is in excess of our budget. On Twine, talks are ongoing. There was a daft rumor going around that we'd signed him on a season-long loan. We haven't. There was, but a deal could both. I think both teams would prefer a permanent deal. Well, I know City would, and I think Burnley would, and I'll tell you why. Burnley have got 46 players. in their squad, and they had 12 out on loan last season. and they need to get rid of a pile of players. Now, all this information is coming from Burnley. So I'm not listening to the City fan talking about it. This is people at Burnley saying to me, well, I don't know why we haven't sold you Twine, because we don't want him. Well, right, fair enough then. Well, honestly, it's not for want of us trying.
Yeah.
But there's only so far City can go. And
well, that's based on the budget. Yeah, when you say there's so far City can go, that's based on the budget. So there's a figure.
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, Liam Manning wants him. Scott Twine wants to come, right? So his agent wants him to come, which is another thing that comes into the equation, because sometimes, as we all know, agents can be a bit of a distraction and a bit of a nuisance.
Tommy Conway in a minute in that respect.
But when we get on to and Burnley are willing to sell. They're not. It's not like Burnley are saying no, hang on, we want to hang on to him, right? So, but at the moment the valuations are apart.
Well, and that's it.
Now, so
I want £1 million for my house, and I know it's worth £1 million, and you're coming along saying I'll give you 750 for it, right? Now,
but if your house is generally worth $1 million, but if you think your house is worth $1 million and it's only worth 750, right, that's all I'm going to give you.
It boils down to what is the price, Ian, that City are prepared to pay for Scott Twine.
All right. Well, the exact. I don't know the exact price, but let me give you my best educated guess. If Burnley said, right, you give us £6 million and you can have Scott Twine, would you want City to pay £6 million for Scott Twine?
Absolutely not. Nobody would, and he's not worth
right.
that.
So and City won't either. Now, now this is an if, so I'm not saying I know. I'm saying this is an if, educated guess, right? So if Burnley said, okay, well, look, you can have him on a year's loan, right? But we want £2 million.
I tell him to do what?
Right. So when people say,
wages to pay.
Yeah. So when people say, well, get it done, get a deal done. Yeah, that's lovely. But you can't just, negotiation doesn't work like that. Negotiation, as we were discussing on the phone yesterday, negotiation is a two-way process. So I make a proposal to buy your house and you go, no, mate, I want that. And I said, blimey, Dave. Yeah, all right. Well, yeah, but I can't do that, but I'll pay that. And then you say, no, I still wouldn't take that. And I said, well, okay, look, I'll tell you what, I'll leave my proposal there, right? If you can sell your house for a lot more money, God bless you and good luck to you, on you go.
Yeah.
But if not, my proposal is still on the table
here's a situation.
For 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If you can't sell it and you want to sell your house, I got the money to buy it.
Dragging on, it's not quite in the realms of Eddie Nketiah, but it's looking very much like that.
No, Dave, it's nothing like Eddie Nketiah, because Eddie Nketiah won't where he went. Scott Twine he wants to come here, right? So everybody wants to move at the moment, but we're still in negotiation with Burnley on the deal, right? And that's where it is now. That could end in a phone call today or tomorrow. And I think can I just get this out before I forget to mention it? Please remember the transfer window doesn't end until the 31st of August.
We've got another month and a half, as near as damn.
So we got 5-6 weeks to get the deal done.
What's your take on Twine's situation, Neil? I mean, Ian's not said the price that he said on the poll, right, which is not Ian's opinion, 2.5 to 4 million, right? 3 million quid, right? I think that's a reasonable amount for Twine. Mm-hmm. But what's your take on where we're at with the whole thing?
Right, okay, can I say what my take is on transfer and then come to Twine?
Yeah, sure.
My take on the transfer is, you look at last summer where you got Knight, McCrory and Dickey deals done really well, really effectively.
June.
All the rest of it
beginning of June.
Boom. That's Phil Alexander. That is an experienced chief executive in there in negotiating and all the rest of it. There's something about this summer, we could get into rhymes and reasons of we don't want a chief executive at the club because we all of us agree with one another and we don't need another voice in the boardroom who is not going to agree with us. Right, okay, so we won't have a chief executive on that basis, which, you know, you can maybe argue with. But there's something about the way that we are horse trading at the moment that isn't great. Now, the Twine deal, coming to the Twine deal, if we say 2.5 million and they say, no, we're looking for 4, okay, we might have a bit of coming and going for a few weeks and then let's move on. The guy is not a world beater. You're not getting a player there who is elevating us to the playoffs or whatever like that. You're getting a good player.
Exactly.
But if you're willing to pay £2.5 million or £3 million for a player, you are going to have other options. And we are 2 weeks away from the end of the season. And start the season rather. And I do not want to get into this nonsense of to and fro-in. It's just a distraction, isn't it? It's like the Conway scenario. We've got a couple of distractions at the moment. We've got the Twine situation and the Conway situation. Watching the games and the way that City play, we need a creative midfielder. Right. We need a number 10 at the club at the moment. Because if you're relying on Stokes to be that number 10, he's not ready for Championship number 10.
All right, that's your view on him.
So if you're not Twine, I would give it 2 more weeks and then.
Well, I wouldn't even give it that. I mean, I mean, Ian, you said all along on time that he'd like to come here, right? This is a club that has lots of tick boxes for him. It's like anything. Now, I'm going to throw this in. You'll say this is complete bollocks, right? But there's a story on media this morning about a player called Sami Chuchane, if that's the right pronunciation, who's a German Tunisian. He's 21 in September, 5'11". He's in Brighton's under 21 side. We're being linked with him. And people are saying that Twine, this has come up before, but I tend to think there's substance to it. Twine could well be on his way to Birmingham because the way Birmingham have spent more than 22 of the 24 clubs in this division. And I think Scott Twine, if he gets the wage that he wants and Birmingham pay the fee that Burnley want, he ain't coming here. He'd come here if that's an option. I think he'd go up 90 miles further up the M5, which I know is 90 miles, probably 70 miles further away from where he comes from, which is Chippenham area. I think we're going to lose him. And as Neil says, I think we should move on. Because, you know, there comes a point where £3 million, you know, and I get a feeling here without you saying that precise number, I think that's a number that if Scott Twine signed a 3-year contract with a 1-year option and City paid £3 million for him, I think most fans would say, nice bit of business. Yeah? Would you agree with that, what I've said in a bit about the fee? 3 million.
Yeah.
Plus add-ons. You know, if you get promoted, there's another £1 million if we got promoted or something like that. Yeah?
Yeah.
So £3 million for Scott Twine, right? Burnley probably want between 4 and 5. Yeah. Birmingham come along and offer them 4 million, and they match Twine's wage offer here. He ain't going to be coming here. Now, the other thing in there, you say in the play that Burnley need to get rid of players because they've got 46 on their squad. He did score a hat-trick against probably a makeshift Barnsley side in a behind closed doors friendly. Scott Parker's there now. Another thing that I read, not on Fans Forum, but it was probably up north somewhere, that the clubs have agreed, and now it's down to Scott Parker whether he wants him or not. And that's an extra dimension that none of us have said so far, that, you know, they need to unload players, but if Scott Parker has seen some potential there, he might say, actually, I'd like him to stay and sell somebody else. All right, but look, that's enough on Twine, right? Because there's one final point we want to talk about here. Tommy Conway. Yeah? Ian, we talked at length about this the other day. Yeah? I think the club's stance with Tommy is the right one. He doesn't want to sign the contract. Maybe his head's been turned, but maybe he was messed around a year ago. What's your take on the Conway situation, Ian?
My take on the Conway situation is that Burnley are about as likely to keep Scott Twine as we are to keep Tommy Conway. Tommy's been offered a fortune. In layman's terms, he might think he's worth more in the marketplace, or his agent might think he's worth more in the marketplace, and he's turned it down. So the story that was going around, well, now that first one, the other player we've been linked with down at Brighton, that's not true. If you look at where we need players, we're probably well stocked in midfield, I would say, because another player that hasn't been mentioned that I think will be in and around the first team squad this season, especially if we get some injuries, is Jed Meerholz. So the player that would have played at Aldershot the other night would have been Henry Caboso, but it's quite likely that he will go to Brighton for a much larger fee than they initially bid. And they bid for him 3 or 4 months ago as well. So that's why Leo went up instead of Henry. Now, on the Tommy situation, he was made an offer which was rejected. And my understanding is he was then made a much better offer, which was then rejected. Now, the interesting thing for me is Liam Manning said it was rejected without negotiation.
Yeah.
Now, that's the bit I don't get. If the player wanted to stay. So I'm taking it from that he wants to leave. Now, any player is quite welcome to leave. This isn't slave labour. I'm not saying force the player to stay, but you can't expect Bristol City, after the experience we've had with people like Nicky Maynard, Jeju, to say, well, okay then, mate, Masengo, you just run your contract down and that'll be fine. And let an asset that I think, Neil and I were discussing this on Twitter, I think he's still worth £5 million. And when we came back earlier on, we were saying, well, if you bought the finished article, and I don't think Tommy is, but Tommy is a very good striker, and I'd love to see him next to somebody like Armstrong or Fally. Love to, right? But Tommy wants to leave. He must want to leave because all this stuff, well, he never asked to leave. Well, okay, you don't have to ask to leave. Now, if we had buyers queuing round the block, like we did with Semenyo and Scott, right? I'd say, good luck to you, Tommy. Pat you on the back. Where do you want to go? Pick your club. We want to go to Bournemouth. Well, that's a surprise. Right, okay. They're going to pay you. What did Scotty finish up on there? Scotty finished up on 10 times what he was on down the City ground. Now that's not 10 times what
his original contract, not the one that we probably offered him to stay. So he's probably
that's 100%.
Probably offered 4 times what our best offer to Scott was. So obviously he was going to move.
Yeah. So, but these guys want to play. Semenyo and Scott want to play Premier Division football. That's the first thing. Secondly, obviously they realise they're going to get a shed load of money doing it. And if I was Tommy's age and somebody was offering me 5-6 times what I was on it at City, I'd be gone. Right? Now that's from my point of view. Now, the City have made him the best offer they could possibly make him. And it's a really good offer, and it's more money than any of us could ever dream of earning in a year. Right? So, but the point is it was turned down with no negotiation. Now, normally, as we said earlier on,
restating that is in black and white in Bristol Live. Liam Manning said that it was turned down.
Yeah. And he also said in his earlier Radio Bristol interview, and this is why he's had the conversation with Tommy and his agent and explained to him how it is, right? He said that when they talked about the contract, they said, look, we want to commit ourselves we want players that really want to be here. Right? We want players that are committed to the club. In other words, if we've got players that are turning down lucrative contracts, right, then we want to develop the ones that are going to be here, not the ones that are going to not be here. Now, I'm guessing the reason Tommy didn't play in the under-21 game down at Western, what if he went down there and got a knock? Yeah. And he was out for 3 months. Now, you're not going to sell him then. So it could be that reason, or they could have said to Tommy, "Do you fancy a game?" And Tommy said, "Well, no, hang on, I might go down there and get injured, and then what?" So there could be all kinds of things. But anyway, he wasn't in either of the three lineups, and that tells you something. Now, I think in terms of the transfer activity last year, we did some of it quicker, but that was down to circumstances rather than down to the Phil Alexander. The one Phil Alexander was involved in was Mehmeti the most, and it wasn't the three we got last year. And if you remember, Jason Knight came in a lot later. We didn't get him the same time as McCrory and Dickey. When I say later, I mean weeks, possibly a month.
Wasn't around when we signed Mehmeti.
No, Mehmeti was signed in the January window.
That was Richard Gould.
Yes, but Phil Alexander was the guy that recommended Mehmeti. And our coaching team knew about him anyway.
He was. All right. So Ian, I mean,
anyway, but anyway, let's by the by. But
I'm conscious of time. I got to jump off of this very, very quickly. I mean, look, my view on Conway is, and we talked about this, Ian, yesterday, right? We have a value on Tommy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're right in saying that there'd be no. Have there been? Well, you seem to know this. Just yes or no answer. Have there been any inquiries for Tommy? Have we rejected any bid? So nobody's come in and said, "I know you want £5 million, but here's £1.5 million or something like that." No, nothing like that.
Yeah, and Dave, can I just quickly point out that we don't know. I don't know what City want for Tommy Conway. The £5 million's my guess, right? They could want more, they could want less, but you don't know until somebody makes an offer. And whereas with Semenyo and Scott, it was all over the internet, wasn't it? Tottenham, Wolves put in a bid.
100%.
Bournemouth put in a bid. There's been nothing on there. So this market, I mean, what the Evening Post said, Bristol Live said, is that the contract was rejected because it was felt it was below his market value. If you go back through and read James Pearce's piece, it was below the market value. Well, there doesn't appear to be a market.
No.
Well, which market? Because City might be prepared to sell Tommy for $2 million, right?
Yeah.
So
if somebody's knocked on the door, and I'm sure with the open communication,
exactly that.
We'd say we would like to have heard, which backs up the point that there probably hasn't been a bid. We would like to have heard that City have rejected a bid from Tommy Conway from an unnamed club. There you go. That keeps your powder dry. You're not saying how much, but you're saying.
But then it will always, Dave. It always, it's like these undisclosed fees. It always
comes out in the media.
Always comes out at the other end.
We were doing too much chat early in June about we're going to get a player signed in 2 days, and a lot of things happened early June that I think were verbal agreements, which is why, as Neil said, we were down to choices number 2, number 3, maybe even number 4 with some of the players that we went for. Right. I mean, look, my take on Tommy, I think, is worst case scenario, we get £300,000. If we go to a tribunal, there was a fee that went through yesterday or recently. Is a lad called Jefferson, who was out of contract at Sheffield United. He went from Sheffield United to Bournemouth, and the compensation fee there was 1.5 million. Now you look at that lad's record against Tommy. Tommy's got a better record than he has in terms of goals scored, probably in championship appearances
and fitness.
And I think, Ian, you said that if the club have been made to be seen a reasonable offer as well, that can influence the tribunal fee. Yeah. So I think City are hoping that, let's say he's worth more than Jefferson. I think City are hoping that they can get about £2.5 million for Tommy. Worst case scenario,
worst case scenario if he stays in England.
And if he goes abroad, it's 300,000. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 300,000 euros.
Celtic, Rangers, or abroad. If Tommy goes there, we could be about 2 million quid out of pocket.
Yeah, that's why Tommy's been made available now. It's not like it's.
If somebody came along and said, "We give you 1.8 million for Tommy tomorrow, plus add-ons based on appearances," I'd take that sort of money now. Neil, your view on that and that assessment?
the relationship with Conway broke down last summer.
Yeah.
Okay. People are aware of. I've used the word shenanigans online. That the issue started last summer. We're a year down the line. He didn't start off the season well. His body language wasn't great. Following on from it, last season was not a good season for him. You can tell by the way he was. Everything about it was like, I'm going. Then we come into this summer now. We've banished him to the under-21s. Banished. Yeah,
that's the right word.
It probably is the right word. I'm struggling to think of another player that's coming to the last year of the contract, refusing to sign a new contract that we put down in.
I'll give you one because I picked up on this there was somebody commented on Twitter, and I can remember, Ian, you'll correct me if I'm wrong here, but Basso, right? He wouldn't sign a new contract, and Johnson left him out for a bit. And I can remember at the time him saying he's got ideas that he's got ideas above his station, but not. I mean, Basso was a folk hero.
Bradley Orr.
Bradley was another one, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of managers do it.
Yeah.
That's what they haven't.
But if we are looking to maximise the Conway fee, whether it be a transfer fee now, or whether it be a tribunal further down the road, putting him in the under-21s is not going to maximise that, is it? If you've got an asset at the club, and Tommy, in a lot of ways, is one of our best strikers at the club.
Yeah.
And the way we are dealing with it at the moment is being forced on us. I get what Ian has said about, you want players moving forward who are going to be at the club and all the rest of it. But obviously, the breakdown in the relationship last summer, we felt that we could change that, and we felt that we could actually get a young player to sign a new contract.
But a young player to sign a new contract that's not a bad contract, and he's got somebody in his ear, and I think, Ian, you said to me this Casavesi has got the same agent, which is Danny Cole.
Cavoso.
And the fact of the matter is that contract, not signing that contract, right? Because he's still on his original contract in the end, the very original one. That contract, not signing it, has probably cost Tommy £500,000, £10,000 a week.
Yeah, but
for a year.
But I think from an outsider looking in, and again, there are people who are closer to us and they're closer to the situation myself, but we all talk and everybody talks, don't they? Is that relationship was broken. Okay, so it's almost like we've held on, and a year on, we've hoped that that it would change.
All right, what broke the relationship?
What broke the relationship?
Yeah, why is it gone? Irrevocable.
Because we changed our position over contract offers last summer, and we messed them around over contract.
So he has a contract that was expiring. I think what you're saying, we've talked about this, right? So correct me if I'm wrong. So he had a contract. We offered him one. Yeah.
He had a contract. He was talking to a club. That club broke down. When he came back to the club,
another contract was put on the table.
Another contract
that wasn't as good as the first one.
Exactly.
All right.
And because of that, he took umbrance with that, and the fact that the club was abusing the position because they offered him a new contract in order for him to stay when he was negotiating with the other club. Yeah. And then when he came back, the contract offer had changed, and at that moment he was royally
pissed off,
and the relationship never improved.
So you've got a combination of that. You've got an agent trying to feather his own nest, and then you've got his mates. You must earning.
You must.
Yeah, I get it. No,
in terms of it, though, you're talking about a player who's been with us since 7.
I know.
So you're talking about a player.
It's a big thing not to.
It's a big thing to take the stance that he is taking.
Yeah.
Shows you his level of feeling on the matter.
Yeah. But it's a combination of those that's probably being stoked by Coles because he wants to get his pound of flesh.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you could look. Of course, the agent's going to do what's best for him, and what's best for him. I get what you're saying about. For me, the best thing that the club could have done is done a situation like they did with Brownhill, like they did with Flynn, where they got on to sign a new contract, knowing that they've been sold, but there's a guaranteed minimum sum and it's a negotiation.
There you go. No,
but it is the word negotiation.
Correct.
When you're confronted with a person who's not willing to negotiate because they're so effed off with what's
but
going
then
on,
if you agree the contract, if you had a contract,
Wait a minute. This is last summer.
yes,
but
This is, hang on, now you're talking about so what you're saying is Conway and his agent were in negotiation with other clubs. City said to him, don't go to the other club. And this is last summer, right?
Yeah.
When we signed Dickie, Knight, etc. Correct? McCrory? Last summer.
yes,
Yeah, so Nigel Pearson was the manager.
yes.
Right, okay. So he's gone to this other club and said, oh, yeah, they've offered him a contract. He's then turned down the other club and City have then reduced the contract.
No,
is that what you're saying?
He didn't turn down the other club. That move, for a number of reasons, didn't happen. So then he's come back to the club.
Who was that move to? Do we know?
Yes.
So who was it?
Celtic.
Right. So he was going to Celtic, right? So he then comes back, and then they then reduce the offer to him.
City changed the goalposts.
Right. And what you're saying is
I would imagine what we did, knowing us, is we offered him an increased deal with probably a minimum price or whatever to try and increase the transfer fee or whatever in it, whatever the structure of the deal was. But when he came back and when that move didn't happen, that he'd set his heart on last summer, and when that move didn't happen, and he came back in and said, right, okay, is that contract you offered? No, we're not offering you that contract anymore. This is our new contract offer. Now, we've probably, no doubt, since then tried to rescue that situation, but the relationship was damaged last summer. And because of it now, we are in a position where there is no negotiation and no talking. And that's probably been going on for the whole year.
Well, I know people at the club watch this podcast because they told us. So no doubt if that's not true, they'll come out and comment on it.
Yeah. Fair enough. No, I agree. All right, guys, look, it's gone on longer than what I said, but it's always good to talk about this stuff. I mean, we have that normal pre-season optimism. I think our chances this season, very much as Gavin said in the interview we did with him, Gavin Marshall, the interview we did with him around about Easter time, that, you know, we've got budgets to operate to, and, you know, we've got policy. But if the stars align, if the stars align for us, it could be our turn. It could be our turn this year.
I do love our 3 and 5 year plan is, well, let's fingers crossed.
No, I think that's what it is. You know, the object, but the object of every club kicking off on August the 10th in the Championship is to get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Get promoted, but getting to the playoffs, like Champions League when you're in the Premier League. You know, you get to the Champions League, but you're happy with Europa. In the Championship, you want to get to the Premier League, but you get to the playoffs, get a day out at Wembley or a couple of decent games in the semis. That's where we are.
So if we get Twine, and I still think we will, and it'll be a decent deal. If we get Scott Twine, I'm still sticking with from where we were last season, bearing in mind everything that's happened, 3 sides coming down that are copping 42 million quid each. And I'm still saying in the top 10 all season and competing for the top 6.
I think if we were flirting, we're 3 wins away, and that's the difference here, and that's what Tinian said to us. We're 3 wins away overall, probably 4, but 3 wins away from achieving that. Yeah, 4 wins.
Four more wins, we'd have finished 6th.
With the time and with the squad that we've got.
All you're looking at, Dave, is 2 more wins at home and 2 more wins away. And our away wins last year were not great. Our own wins were as good as they've ever been since we've come back up to the division, but still not brilliant.
I mean,
So-
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. This is season 58 for me. I'm hopeful. Yeah. I like the look of Armstrong. I think Max Bird is a good player. Defensively, we got options. Some of the youngsters look really exciting. Yeah. So it's a case of hoping that it all comes together.
Well, remember on the transfer front that if we sell more senior players, we would recruit more. So let me give you an example. Let's say Everton came in tomorrow and said we'll give you 15 million for Max O'Leary, and we sold Max. We'd go out and recruit another senior goalkeeper. So we haven't by any means finished with our outs on loan and outs perm.
Well,
yeah.
So we haven't talked about people.
That's the next step.
Yeah.
So you might get a bit of to and fro, and like I say, I wouldn't say to anybody. I say to anybody, don't panic, because the window don't shut. And
there's a long way to go.
And my take on is I mean, the number one side I'd select if it was down to me, and thank God it's not, because like you say, Manning's got quite a few variables in there. Would be 3-5-2, and I wouldn't play with a 10. But that's just me.
Yeah, that's you.
So,
all right, Ian. Thank you for that. Neil, thanks for that. Have a great holiday, and I know you'll be back fit and raring to go. Probably, are you back in time for the Coventry game in the Cup, which is Tuesday after? So you'll be going to that one, won't you?
Be going to that one.
Have you moved? Are you still in the?
I'm still at E32 for another
Dolmen.
season, but those 32 flights, I might join you in Mansions.
Come across to Lower Lansdowne. Yeah, as I say, I'm always enthusiastic going into the season. It's I've chatted to a whole City fan the other day, and it would be great if we got something up there. And then Coventry, beat them in the Cup, beat Millwall, beat Coventry in the league, go to Derby on the final day of August, and get something there. And it's a fabulous start to the season. But who knows? We really don't know, and that's what makes it exciting. But everybody, those of you that have tuned in today, thanks for watching it live. This will get uploaded to the usual podcast platforms. And we'll be back next season. We'll be back with some more previews before the season starts. But our regular format. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our Twitter page as well. Spotify. That's a podcast platform. But I'm not bothered about subscribers.
How many platforms have you got?
Oh, we're all over the place. Got more platforms than Temple Meads.
World famous we are, Neil. World famous. We got followers in Japan now.
But great to be back after a few weeks off and looking